Da, 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 da. Here we go. We're ready. Big fan dude, first in the chat. It's 12. Well, it's going to be later. Already midnight in my country, but still important to watch F1 rather than sleep. Completely agree. Hello, Lofi, mate. How you doing? Mohammed's in the chat. Ethnic Edits, Muffin, Racker, Lackey. I think Lando will lose positions at the start. If so, how many? I mean, going by the start yesterday, I think more likely to hold on to that first place. He managed to gain a couple of positions in the sprint race. Obviously, starting from pole position, nothing to gain, all to lose, unfortunately, for Lando. And is Max Verstappen beside him? So it's going to be very interesting. Hello, Antonio, mate. Sorry, Miss Quality fell asleep. That is fair enough. It's the later ones this weekend, isn't it? Hello, Antonio. And Lofi says, Sally in the chat. How are we all doing? Andra, hello. CS Boss is in there as well. Smiley Brandon 21. Piggyback predictions. We'll get there, don't you worry. When does the race begin? In about 30 minutes or so. We usually go live around half an hour before the Grand Prix gets underway. Josh Swain, I completely agree. I feel like this is set up to be an absolute banger of a race. Thank you, Antonio, for continuing to be a member. Massively appreciated that, mate. It's been a couple of years now. Must have been at least. Let me have a little look. 27 months. Goodness gracious me. Makes me feel a little bit older than I would like to admit that I am. Hello, Liam, mate. I think Lando wins. I hope Lando wins. I think Max will, says Cheers, mate. Okay. Do you think that Colapinto will get to a better team in a few seasons? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for him. I can foresee Colapinto coming back into a Williams seat, to be honest. I think Carlos Sainz or Alex Albon might get a better opportunity maybe in a couple of years' time. And there might be an opening for him to sort of go back into that seat. A little bit like Liam Lawson has had to do, kind of wait for a couple of seasons to finally get your proper comeuppance, even though he's getting these 9 races at the end of the season, has been very, very impressive. How long did it take me to build the McLaren Lego set? Around about 10 hours, and I streamed the entire thing live. It was a couple of years ago now, though. We're talking back when the channel was a lot smaller. We I think just battered it out 10 hours or so. Full live stream is still available on the channel somewhere. You'd have to go back through the archives a little bit, though. But I think it was, around about the 10-hour mark. Can you explain to us how the USGP works? It's the same as all the other ones, to be honest with you, just in the United States. That's the only difference. Well, one of 3 that is in the United States. Miami, of course, earlier on in the season. Texas now, and Vegas still to come. Will Ferrari turn the tables? 12-hour stream building it, give or take. Oh, okay, in my mind, it was a little bit shorter. There you go, 12 hours. It was a very, very long stream. I do have to keep it dusted, though. Get your little feather duster out, sort of give it a wiggle around on top. Do I think Lawson can outperform Sonoda? Today, no. In the next 5 races, I'm going to put it past him. I think it's going to be tough for Liam Lawson because it is a very different scenario to how he came in last year. But shall we delve into it then? Should we have a little look at the statistics as they stand? And also have a little look at some predictions, the qualifying, and so on and so forth. So here is what we've got this weekend. You'll notice a couple of drivers have fallen back towards the rear end of the pack, but we'll get to those momentarily. At the moment, let's start at the top. Lando Norris does indeed jump to the front of the pack, thanks to George Russell, really, because George Russell putting it in the barriers towards the end of qualifying 3 meant that Max Verstappen didn't improve. Carlos Sainz also didn't improve. Lando Norris could have easily been 3rd or 4th fastest in Q3 come the end of it, because he was a couple attempts down on Max Verstappen through the first sector. So it was looking like Verstappen was likely to nab that pole position, if not Carlos Sainz. But That crash from George Russell did mean that he will have to, well, first of all, it means that Lando Norris holds on to pole position. And secondly, it means that George Russell will be starting towards the back of the pack. Thank you, Bundino, for subscribing to the channel, and Pesto Nicholas. Or Pestotto. Haas double points again. Back-to-back double points for Haas. Not out of the realms of possibility, looking at where they are starting today. But as I said, Lando Norris starting on pole. Just beside him, Max Verstappen in second spot. Although Max Verstappen, after winning the sprint yesterday and that new floor on the Red Bull car, does feel like he has made a big step in the right direction. Does feel like the team have made a big step in the right direction. And Lando Norris just can't catch a break, can he? Like, Lando Norris, whenever Lando Norris has a bad weekend, Max Verstappen has a bad weekend. Whenever Lando Norris has a good weekend, and you're just praying like, okay, if Lando can have a good weekend here and he can maybe make up 10 to 15 points on Max Verstappen in the standings, then we've got like a real challenge on our hands. But every single time Norris has had like a banger of a weekend, I'm talking Zandvoort, I'm talking Singapore, I'm talking this weekend, possibly if he wins this Grand Prix, Max Verstappen is just right behind him every single time. Whereas, like, when Norris has a little bit of an iffy weekend, you know, your Monzas or your Azerbaijans, Max Verstappen is still right beside him or finishes, like, marginally behind him. And it's just like, there's no opportunity for Lando Norris to really extend this championship battle, is it? Like, he's not got the opportunity, really. Well, you could argue he had the opportunity in Azerbaijan because Max Verstappen did have a poor weekend, but Lando Norris had a poor weekend equally. But Max Verstappen right behind him. Then a full second row lockout for Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. The two Ferraris a little bit slower in qualifying than I was expecting, but looked absolutely rapid in the sprint race. Carlos Sainz in particular was taking names during the sprint race yesterday. Super entertaining. Managed to finish in second place during the sprint. I think Carlos Sainz is in the mix for the victory here. You know, we're talking about Lando Norris and Max Verstappen because they're the championship contenders. Carlos Sainz is very much in contention for victory here this afternoon in Austin. Then Charles Leclerc just behind. Wouldn't count him out either. Oscar Piastri starts from 5th place. It's been a mixed weekend for Oscar Piastri. He's never looked 100% set in that McLaren car. Really poor qualifying from him, obviously, before the sprint race. Then in the sprint, it was just about scrambling together and getting as high up as possible. Managed to finish in 10th, just behind Sergio Perez, but outside of the points in the sprint race. And now is actually starting just behind Charles Leclerc. And those two have been inseparable over the last few races. If you look at the last 6-7 Grand Prix, they've finished next to each other, if not a couple of places from one another every single time around, which makes that battle for third place in the Drivers' Championship very, very interesting between those two. But the man we have to talk about, just outside the top 5, Pierre Gasly, was on an absolute screamer last time out. He was so quick in qualifying, just managed to put that Alpine in a window that nobody was expecting. It's going to be really annoying because we're going to see Piastri start next to Pierre Gasly. Gasly in an orange Alpine, so I'm definitely going to get confused as to who is who. One of them's probably spinning out, and I'm either going to be like, oh my god, well, actually, I support both of those drivers, so either of them spinning out, I would be very, very unhappy about, but more so Piastri than Gasly because I want the McLaren team to pick up some more points and guarantee that Constructors' Championship victory. Fernando Alonso, he's always in the mix for best of the rest, isn't he? Really isn't a championship of his own this season, Fernando Alonso, but he starts in 7th place. Kevin Magnussen, the man beside him. Kevin Magnussen out qualifying Nico Hülkenberg for one of the very few times this season and actually getting himself into Q3, whereas Nico Hülkenberg dropped out in Q2. And we'll see what Kevin Magnussen can do there. Obviously scored a couple of points in the sprint race. He'll be wanting to continue that point scoring positions for him and for the Haas team so they can put themselves away from RB in the points. Then it comes to Sergio Perez. He'll start in 9th place with Yuki Tsunoda in 10th. I think Yuki Tsunoda was probably the most entertaining driver to watch in the sprint race yesterday. maybe outside of Carlos Sainz, Yuki Tsunoda was putting everything on the line in that RB car. And I really hope that continues. I really do hope that Sergio Perez, Yuki Tsunoda can have a nice little battle at the beginning. And then maybe Tsunoda can get in the mix. You know, your Alonsos, your Hulkenbergs, your Magnussens all battling it out in that middle pack for those final point scoring places. Then underneath, we've got Nico Hulkenberg starting just outside of the points. He did actually qualify all the way down in 12th place. Should say that about Yuki Tsunoda as well. Tsunoda did not manage to make it through to Q3, but is now starting in the point scoring places because of George Russell dropping down the order. Nico Hulkenberg starts in 11th. Esteban Ocon starts in 12th place. And we'll be looking at the Haas scoring points. And we'll be very, very happy indeed that the Haas team are moving in the right direction with those Toyota stickers on the car. Lance Stroll starts in 13th place. Alex Albon starts in 14th place. It was a very difficult qualifying for the two Williams cars. Obviously, they start back to back, but both of them dropped out in Q1 yesterday. Albon and Colapinto just gaining a couple of positions because of Lawson and Russell dropping to the back of the grid. So I'm not expecting too much from the Williams cars, to be honest with you. It'd be nice for Albon to get in that mix with sort of Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, if he could, for kind of 10th place. But we'll have to wait and see. Valtteri Bottas starting in 16th place, not expecting much from him. Lewis Hamilton starting in 17th place, and it was just a nightmare qualifying for Lewis Hamilton yesterday, wasn't it? He really didn't have any kind of pace in that Mercedes car. George Russell was also complaining about the pace just seemingly disappearing from the car, but Lewis Hamilton, a couple of mistakes in Q1 and one of the worst qualifying sessions that he's had in a long time. Zhou Guanyu will also start in 18th place, with Liam Lawson starting at the back of the pack after 60 places worth of grid penalties. So grid penalties galore for Liam Lawson, and I think a nice way for him to start his RB career, though. Managed to have a little battle with Fernando Alonso yesterday. Fernando was not very happy about it, but Liam Lawson came out on top in the sprint. Didn't get anywhere near the point scoring places or even anywhere near his teammate, but still nice for him to be out there getting to grips with the Red Bull engine and this RB package that he's going to be racing for the rest of the season. And then he's going to be, I feel like Lawson's, got the opportunity definitely to get past Joe and Bottas, and then might have a little battle with Colapinto. That'd be a nice little battle to watch, wouldn't it? Liam Lawson versus Colapinto, both of the rookies on the Formula One grid, both of them stepping in for the final few races of the season for their teams. Be nice to see that, because Colapinto's come out absolutely swinging. 4 points scored for the Argentinian already this season. Liam Lawson looking for his first points of the season. Unlikely from 19th place, but have to wait and see. And yeah, I feel like a little battle with Colapinto would be very, very nice indeed. And then finally, George Russell, you'll notice, has dropped all the way to the back of the grid. I mentioned before that George Russell crashed during qualifying 3. It was a heavy shunt into the barriers at turn 19. And actually, he was on for an okay qualifying. He was maybe looking to improve, was probably going to end up around about where Gasly is, to be honest with you, in 6th place. Just outside of those kind of top drivers for this weekend. The Mercedes car looking 4th best pretty much every single session so far. George Russell kind of put it together in sprint qualifying, but didn't have enough during the sprint, and then also didn't really look like he was going to have enough to battle with the guys in the race either after qualifying, and then sent it into the wall anyway. So yeah, that big shunt during Q3 obviously brought out the yellow flags, meaning that nobody else could send a lap time, and he has to replace a fair few parts. So George Russell starting from the pit lane. I'm just trying to look for the list of parts that they have replaced. Can't find it in my notes anywhere. He's starting in the pit lane anyway. Doesn't really matter what parts are being replaced, does it? It was a heavy shunt for George Russell, and he is going to have to replace various bits and pieces, various components on his car, starting from the back of the grid. Russell's mechanics couldn't fix the car in time. Ah, that's the one. Yeah, broke Park Fermi rules. Thank you, thank you. Starting from the pit lane. Thank you, Popka. I did have it in my notes somewhere, but just can't see it. Can't scroll. What's my view on how Liam has a shot at Perez's seat, even though Yuki has been proving himself since so long, but still Yuki has been given no chance? Unfortunately, it's just kind of the Red Bull way. They've seemingly just made their mind up about Yuki Tsunoda a very long time ago, and they don't seem willing to change it, to be honest. I completely agree, though. Yuki Tsunoda's been great. Like, you look at the standings, Tsunoda's right in there with some of the best drivers that we've seen this season. Oh, they are not the updated standings. Give me one moment. Sometimes I upload it and it doesn't save. Max Verstappen, 339 points. But yeah, Yuki Tsunoda, 22 points, considerably above like Daniel Ricciardo, who's been his teammate the whole season up until now, ahead of Alex Albon by 10 points. You know, a couple of points away from Nico Hulkenberg. And Nico Hulkenberg, for me, probably been top 3 or 4 drivers on the grid this season. Like, I have been so impressed with Nico Hulkenberg throughout this year. And I think he's been, well, he is showing that he's that kind of best of the rest driver. Bar Fernando Alonso, but Fernando Alonso is just, again, in a league of his own this season with 62 points. Like, no one was getting close to that, unfortunately, for the back end of the pack. But Nico Hulkenberg finishing in 10th, ahead of an Aston Martin and ahead of the rest of the kind of rear end drivers in a Haas car. Very impressive indeed. And like nothing, like you can't snub a top half finish. I know that top half is technically 11th up now because we've got 23 drivers on the grid, but still, Nico Hulkenberg, you know, scoring a top half finish even in the 20 drivers that we started the year with. Very impressive as we see the US Grand Prix getting underway. Very American, isn't it? Some cheerleaders going at it at the front of the grid. Great. Let's cut to Max Verstappen. We are indeed 12 minutes away. Give us your top 10 for today. Should we get some predictions going? Go on then. Top 10s in the chat, or even top 5. I think is tough, man. I do think those top 3 or 4 are all in the battle for the victory. I could see Oscar Piastri kind of finishing 5th. I think just looking at how he's raced so far this weekend, obviously we didn't really get to see him fully go for it in the sprint race, but even when he did, he was, you know, picking up 5-second penalties for pushing Pierre Gasly off the road. So I could see Piastri coming home in 5th. And then, so I think Gasly can hold on. I think Sergio Perez probably gets up to 6th place, doesn't he? Yeah. Sergio Perez gets up to 6th. Then maybe Alonso. I really want to say that Gasly will hold on to a point scoring place, but I just like Magnussen's in there. Hulkenberg's right there as well. Tsunoda's right there. I do think it's going to be tough for Gasly. I think Gasly might end up finishing 10th. Yeah. I think it's like it's 10th or 11th for Pierre Gasly, isn't it? It goes one way or the other. Because Tsunoda and Hulkenberg have looked really good, in the sprint race. Although the RB, Tsunoda was sort of defending more than attacking, wasn't he? So maybe Gasly stays in front of Tsunoda as well. Hulkenberg, though, I feel like might move forward a couple of positions. So that top 3 could interchange. I feel like Leclerc is in for a shout at a podium as well. Then Piastri, Perez 6th, Alonso 7th, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, then Gasly. Let's put Gasly in front of Tsunoda, and then Tsunoda drops out of the point scoring places. I want a double points finish for Haas again. I want back-to-back double points finishes in the sprint and then in the race for the Haas team. I think that would just be so fun for them at their home Grand Prix. And the first Grand Prix, they've got the Toyota stickers on the car. Like, just so much positive momentum going towards Haas would be really, really fun to see. There is Lando Norris getting prepared, just getting sprayed down with some water, trying to cool him off a little bit. It's going to get very hot at the start of this Grand Prix. Him and Max Verstappen going up the hill towards turn 1. Be very, very interesting indeed. Though Marco Ferreira thinks it's going to be an L. Why is Russell P20 having to start from the back of the pack after his car crashed out in Q3 yesterday? Yeah, Russell crashed out in Q3. And then they did indeed. Mercedes broke parc fermé conditions, putting the car back together again. That means that George Russell will have to start from the pit lane because Mercedes had to carry the repairs out through the night. And there's basically, you're allowed to break the curfew a certain amount of times per year. Mercedes have kind of gone over that and therefore done and dusted. How far up will the Mercs get? I just don't think they've got that much pace. Like we saw Hamilton and Russell really struggling in the sprint yesterday. I know that's only 19 laps and it's kind of a very condensed race, a third of the distance of the whole thing. But Russell, started well. Started second yesterday. A poor start then kind of put him down a couple of places, and then it wasn't really very good from then onwards. Carlos Sainz streamed past him, Charles Leclerc streamed past him and disappeared up the road. Like, Russell just had absolutely nothing to come back at the Ferraris with. So I just can't see the Mercedes cars being that quick, to be honest. Maybe one of them gets up towards the point scoring places. But to be honest with you, I'm quite happy for Mercedes to take home no points this weekend. Like, Mercedes are not really fighting for anything. If you look at the Drivers' Championship, okay, George Russell is fighting for bragging rights, and obviously beating Lewis Hamilton in Hamilton's final season at Mercedes would be great for him. But apart from that, there's not too much going on. And then you look at Lewis Hamilton's just kind of sacking in the rest of the season. Whereas, actually, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, those guys picking up points, even Gasly picking up points, is really fun and makes that rear end of the field much, much more competitive and much more exciting. So I'd much rather the two Mercedes cars kind of leave some point scoring places, because normally we have the top 8 guaranteed, don't we? Maybe now, if that's just the top 6 guaranteed, there's 4 point scoring places available for the likes of Alonso, Magnussen, Gasly, Hülkenberg, Tsunoda, maybe even Ocon to get into the mix with. Albon, if you can really get going at the beginning of the race. Like, if those guys can actually have 4 point scoring places available to them, it'd be so fun to watch. Obviously, Fernando Alonso usually takes one, so normally it is just the 1 point scoring place available to the majority of the grid. What's my favorite Formula 1 team? I'm a Mercedes man, although I am wearing an old school AlphaTauri jumper. Just kind of put it on for the sake of it. I've got like a Formula 1 wardrobe over there. It's kind of just to the side of this trophy and this cabinet. There is a little coat hanger set with all of my Formula 1 merchandise. So it's a bit weird. It's kind of a bit of a ritual. As I set up for the streams or I set up to record, I also get changed into some sort of Formula 1 merchandise. But went for the AlphaTauri jumper today. Can Mercedes score points? Most certainly. Yeah, they definitely can. And they probably should. I'm just hoping that they don't. Like, realistically, the Mercedes car should still have more than enough pace to get up into the top 10. I'm just kind of erring on the side of I don't really want them to. Did I say Mercedes? I meant McLaren. Goodness gracious. I'm all over the place. Can you tell us an evening race? It's not even evening yet, really, is it? Not even. It said Mercedes. It's because we were talking about Mercedes. I am a McLaren fan, is what I wanted to say. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Bleed Papaya, so on and so forth. Have I ever gone to a Formula 1 race? Yes, indeed. I've been to Silverstone, been to Hungary. A few more on the list, but since I've had like a few on the list, and I was going to go to one this season, and then I was like, or I could just stream it. Because I do really love doing these streams with you guys and having these chats. I said Mercedes. Apologies. Antonio has caught me. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. Goodness gracious me. Not a grid penalty, but Russell having to start from the back of the grid. Well, starting from the pit lane, sorry. Russell having to start from the pit lane after the Mercedes team broke Parc Ferme conditions and had to go towards battling with that car, putting it back together again. Do an IRL stream? That is the thing, right? I'd have to find a way of streaming whilst I'm there, which I feel like would be very, very weird. It'd be quite fun though, to like maybe set up like a makeshift desk of some kind. I feel like the security would be onto me fairly swiftly if I set up some kind of, you know how like Mr. V does like the camping chair. If it was like a little camping chair and then me with a microphone and then like like obviously I'm watching the race, but you guys would just see the behind me, some trees or something if I was in Belgium. That'd be interesting. Mercedes the most boring team right now. I wouldn't say boring. Very up and down, but I would agree that there's not a lot going on for the rest of the season for Mercedes, apart from that kind of Russell-Hamilton battle in the Drivers' Championship. But let's get into it, shall we? We've got 3 minutes until we get underway. Mr. V shout out. I love Mr. V. I'm all like, if you're ever in Mr. V's chats whilst he does like live streams and stuff, I'm pretty much always there. So me and Mr. V, I'm a big supporter of his stuff. Same with Tomo actually. Tomo and Mr. V are kind of the two that I still watch regularly. Does the car starting from the pit lane have less fuel as it doesn't have to do the formation lap like everyone else? That is a great question. I guess, yeah, they can fuel it just that little bit under because the teams get to determine how much fuel they put in the car. It's a little bit like if you've ever played Formula One Manager, you get to like gamble on putting a little bit less fuel in the car and maybe going a bit quicker at the start, but then having to conserve fuel later on in the race. Or you can kind of put more than enough fuel in and just rinse the car for all it's worth. That's why we often see drivers kind of lifting and coasting in various parts of the race, especially when they're trying to hold onto their tires as well. So, have I heard about the F1 Creator Series? I haven't. I have not. I don't really follow like F1 esports and that kind of thing. As I said, that's what I mean. I don't watch too many other F1 YouTubers other than Mr. V and Tomo right now. Mainly just because I haven't got the time. But secondly, just they're the two that I've kind of held on to a little bit as a fan of. Let's have a little look and get the race board ready. Do we have everything on the go? We do indeed. Let me just fix the radio transcriptions as well. A few radio messages starting to come in from the drivers that I want to show. Hamilton, Colapinto in front of me on the hard. Liam Lawson scouting out the tyres. And it is indeed Lance Stroll starting on a used set of hard compound tyres, or a scrubbed set of hard compound tyres, I should say, just the one lap in them. Colapinto starting on the hard compound tyre. Hamilton on the hard compound tyre as well, with Lawson and Russell also starting on the hards. Everybody else on a set of medium tyres. Lando Norris, Verstappen, both on fresh sets of mediums. Sainz, Leclerc, the same. The yellow striped tyre for the majority of the grid. Lewis Hamilton. Damn, this is far back. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton, not much experience from starting from 17th place. Done a few times in his career, but not too many, considering the accolades in Lewis Hamilton's Formula One career. We are about to get underway. The drivers just getting set up on the grid. All 20 drivers in their cars. And the drivers being lowered onto the ground. Just getting the tyre warmers also off of all the cars. And stepping away, Lando Norris starting from pole position. The yellow helmet inside the papaya car. Well, the chrome car this weekend, obviously running that special livery. As we get underway then, if we could leave a like on the stream, leave a like on the stream, that would be absolutely amazing. It really does help us out more than you'd imagine. And if we could also subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are 15 seconds from the start of the formation lap. And as the timer ticks over to 2 p.m. Texas time, we get underway with the formation lap. Lando Norris going up towards turn 1. Max Verstappen seemingly jumping ahead in terms of the timing sheets, but I think that was a little jump. Lando Norris is there now. Wish we get to listen to the Dutch anthem today. It's been a little while, hasn't it? You know, after everybody was getting sick and tired of it during 2023, it's been a while now for Max Verstappen since he stood on the top step of a full race podium. Obviously won the sprint yesterday. Got a little taste of victory back in the Dutchman's mouth, but not yet. Stood on the top step of the podium since the summer break, and even before that, four races before the summer break. Also for Max Verstappen, he was without a win in Formula One. One of his longest stints without a win in Formula One since he's joined Red Bull. McLaren, go, go, go. Ooh, I missed the Dutch anthem. Don't know if we miss it yet. Has been a little while. Toyota powers incoming, says Assad. I hope so. I really hope so. Hopefully Lando doesn't bottle the start. A much better start from Lando Norris yesterday in the sprint race. His best start of the season, it probably has to be said. And now we're looking at Lando Norris starting from pole position. All I want to see is a papaya car going into turn 3 ahead of Max Verstappen. Then, you know, maybe ahead of Max Verstappen through turn 12 as well. Would be lovely to see also. They're the two overtaking opportunities I imagine Max Verstappen will go for on the first lap. Hopefully Ferrari on a podium. Ferrari definite podium, yeah. I feel like both of the Ferrari cars in contention for the podium places, just because Oscar Piastri hasn't quite been at it this weekend. The same level he has been at other races since the summer break. I'd say that, you know, Oscar Piastri's probably been the informed driver. Well, the point scoring shows that in the last 6 or 7 races, but not quite able to do it. George Russell just making his way to the end of the pit lane as well. Seeing the Mercedes car getting ready after Mercedes broke Parc Fermé conditions. Lando Norris, Verstappen, Sainz, Leclerc take their spots. And Oscar Piastri just coming in to the 5th grid slot as well. Gasly will go beside 2 papaya cars, side by side in 5th and 6th place. Fernando Alonso 7th. On board with Nico Hülkenberg at the moment. There's Liam Lawson as well, the first Grand Prix of the season for him after taking the place of Daniel Ricciardo post-Singapore. 6 races in this season left to play out and 6 opportunities for Lawson to prove his worth to RB or even to Red Bull. Could he be taking Sergio Perez's position in the future? We'll have to wait and see. He starts in 19th place and puts himself into 19th place on the grid. The green flag is waved as all 20 cars come to a stop. And here we go then. We get underway for the US Grand Prix. Lando Norris moves across to cover off Max Verstappen on the inside of the track. It's a good run from Lando Norris. Max Verstappen, though, is going to try and make the move up the inside. Verstappen's going to push him wide. And it's Carlos Sainz. He's gone all the way through. Sorry, Charles Leclerc. Leclerc has been an amazing start from Charles Leclerc. Lando Norris atrociously down to 4th place. Is Charles Leclerc out of nowhere, just darts up the inside of everybody, and Verstappen holds on to 2nd. Carlos Sainz remains in 3rd, and Lando Norris has dropped all the way down to 4th. Oscar Piastri now 5th. Gasly is into 6th place still. Magnussen up to 7th. We've got Sergio Perez up into 8th place. Tsunoda's in 9th. Alonso all the way down into 10th position. Hulkenberg holds on to 11th. Hamilton with an absolutely stunning start from the back of the grid there, up to 12th place. And Liam Lawson has also massive jump up to 14th after battling with Colapinto. Joe and Bottas in 16th, 17th. Alex Albon has had an absolutely miserable start, and so has Esteban Ocon. Verstappen pushed wide by Carlos Sainz, really wide by Carlos Sainz. And Carlos Sainz looking at the inside of Max Verstappen now. Through turn 13, 14. He goes around the outside. He's going to be able to cut in on Verstappen. He goes for the move. Does Carlos Sainz? Verstappen goes a little bit wide. And the Spaniard keeping the Dutchman under pressure. Lap 1 of this Grand Prix absolutely flying. Charles Leclerc is going to come around turn 19 and 20 leading this one. Lando Norris, frustrated, has dropped all the way down to 4th place in his McLaren car. Max Verstappen now over a second adrift from Leclerc and outside of DRS range. DRS activated now on lap 2 of the Grand Prix. Let's see Carlos Sainz down towards turn 12. I want to see a little battle here from Carlos. Come on, Carlos, do us a favor. Push Max Verstappen out of this Grand Prix. Through the S's they go. Carlos Sainz holding onto the back of Max Verstappen through that kind of very swift 4, 5, 6. Here comes Carlos Sainz then. Charles Leclerc leads 1.4 seconds ahead of Verstappen. DRS is enabled as they come towards turn 11. Max Verstappen is outside DRS range of Leclerc. Is Carlos Sainz going to be able to use the DRS then to his advantage? The Ferrari coming down the back straight. The Dutchman in defensive mode. The DRS wide open for Carlos Sainz. Is he going to peel to the inside? Has a look around the outside. Does Carlos Sainz? Max Verstappen's going to have to wonder where he's going to come from. Max Verstappen goes a little bit wide through turn 12. Is Carlos Sainz going to try and switch back through the middle part of this sector? He goes for it. Carlos Sainz around the outside. Max Verstappen closes the door though, and Carlos Sainz not this time around. Trying to get the slingshot on Max Verstappen was Carlos Sainz. Didn't manage to do it that time around. Holds on to 3rd though. Lando Norris still 4th. Piastri 5th. Gasly down to 6th. Gasly still in 6th. Magnussen in 7th. Tsunoda, a really solid start from the Japanese drivers, jumped up to 8th spot. Sergio Perez the same. Fernando Alonso. Oh, what's happened to Lewis Hamilton? Lewis Hamilton has had a little bit of a something, and Lewis Hamilton is in the gravel. Hamilton falling down the order, and after starting so well, has beached his Mercedes car. And that's going to be Lewis Hamilton out of the Austin Grand Prix after what was a tremendous start from Lewis Hamilton, jumping all the way up to 12th place on the hard compound tyre, and he is now going to be out of the Grand Prix. Hamilton's car beached in that 3rd sector. Yellow flags still flying. No safety car or virtual safety car at the moment. So therefore, we have Charles Leclerc running up towards turn 11 and 12. Let's see if Carlos Sainz has a go once again through this middle sector. Going down towards it. Carlos Sainz with DRS. Max Verstappen still no DRS. And there is the safety car confirmation. Just as we were about to see Carlos Sainz have a go at Max Verstappen, the safety car is deployed to get Lewis Hamilton's car off the racetrack. And he has beached that Mercedes car well and proper into the turn 19 gravel. Hopefully we'll get a little replay of what happened there for Lewis Hamilton. But as I said, up to 12th and now down to 20th. Lewis Hamilton on lap 2 of the Austin Grand Prix will see the end to his final Austin Grand Prix in a Mercedes. And he'll be back here next year in a Ferrari car. But safety car is called. We haven't seen a safety car in a good few races, have we? Lewis Hamilton still hovering around beside the car. I think just frustrated with himself. Let's have a little look at Charles Leclerc here then. Starts behind Max Verstappen, gets an exceptional launch. There's Charles Leclerc already ahead of Carlos Sainz as they go up the hill. And then Charles Leclerc breaks really early, but just gets that undercut on everybody and goes underneath Verstappen and Norris into the lead of the Grand Prix. Norris pushed really, really wide, opens the door for the Ferraris to both get past Lando Norris as well as Max Verstappen. So Lando Norris pushed off the track. Oh, and there was the contact for Esteban Ocon. Alex Albon hitting into the side of Esteban Ocon, which is why those two dropped all the way to the back of the pack. Charles Leclerc then catches up to the back of the safety car, and we're going to see the cars just concertina up behind the safety car before Lewis Hamilton's car is moved from turn 19. Here we are on board with Alex Albon, the Alpine of Ocon in front of him. Let's have a little look then. Darts up the inside as Alex Albon. And yeah, just nowhere to go. Lewis Hamilton comes up the inside. Esteban Ocon is on the outside. And Alex Albon collides with the Alpine, putting Ocon and Albon all the way to the back of these drivers. Alex Albon has actually decided to come in and pit. So getting that pit stop out of the way under the safety car. Very, very early indeed for a pit stop, though, for Alex Albon. Gasly was also right alongside Oscar Piastri at the beginning of the Grand Prix. Here we go then. What happened at turn 18-19? Lap 2. And it's just Lewis Hamilton losing control. Doesn't look like there's any kind of contact to me. Hamilton just loses it. And the rear end of the car steps out, spins around, and Lewis Hamilton out of the Grand Prix. As soon as he was in the gravel, I think the car was still running, but spinning the tyres was just digging him deeper into the gravel trap. George Russell, after starting from the pit lane, actually probably quite thankful for the safety car, catches him right up to the back of the pack. Ocon and Albon have moved themselves out of the way by colliding at turn 1. So George Russell now running 17th place, the sole Mercedes in this Grand Prix. Safety car is still out. Yeah, no further investigation of that Albon-Ocon collision. I do think there was just sort of nowhere for any of them to go. Ocon was sort of around the outside, Albon in the middle, Hamilton up the inside, and just unfortunate that Albon hit Ocon, because Albon could have very easily also... Ooh. And Lando Norris on the radio. Not very happy at all on the radio. Says Max Verstappen pushed him wide. Max Verstappen went wide of the corner himself, so he had to lose the positions as to not crash into him. And I do slightly agree with Lando Norris. I'd like to see it from the onboard, personally, before I throw it out there. As a McLaren fan, don't want to be too biased, but let's give Max Verstappen a penalty, shall we? Have a little look if that is under investigation, shall we? So at the moment, nothing under investigation. That Albon-Ocon incident investigated and no penalty given. At the moment, no investigation pending on that start from Max Verstappen. Let's have a little look. Finally, the onboard from Max Verstappen. It's a good launch from both Lando and Verstappen. Verstappen just darts up the inside, though, super late on the brakes. Oh, and I do think all of Verstappen's tyres crossed the white line. And Verstappen also pushed super wide by Carlos Sainz at turn 12. Carlos Sainz gives the position to Max Verstappen. Doesn't want to just run him off the road and then also not take the position, because that would have just been a straight penalty for Carlos Sainz. The safety car is ending this lap then. So after a couple of laps of racing, we're finally going to get back underway here in Austin. Charles Leclerc up to first place. Verstappen still running second. Carlos Sainz third. Lando Norris, the big loser, at the front of the pack, down in fourth spot. Oscar Piastri still in fifth. Gasly sixth. Magnussen seventh. Tsunoda up into eighth place. Sergio Perez 9th. Fernando Alonso dropping a few positions down to 10th. Nico Hülkenberg in 11th spot, just outside of the point scoring places. Stroll, Lawson, Joe, Colapinto, Bottas, Russell, Ocon, and Albon running outside of the points, with Lewis Hamilton retired from the Grand Prix. And here we are then, getting back underway with Charles Leclerc under pressure from Max Verstappen. They come round turn 20, and Verstappen is going to have a little go, you imagine, up towards turn 1. The Ferrari, though, trying to escape up the hill away from the Red Bull, and does indeed. The Ferrari too much for Max Verstappen in a straight line. Verstappen not able to have a go at Leclerc as of yet. Carlos Sainz also waiting and watching to see what happens between the two cars in front of him. A victory on the cards for either one of the Ferraris, you have to think. Lance Stroll tries to make a move on Liam Lawson. Lawson up in towards 12th, though. Good move from the RB up to 12th place. Lewis Hamilton out of the Grand Prix. A mistake on turn 2 put him in the gravel. But let's have a little look then. Leclerc round turn 11. Verstappen coming around as well. Is Verstappen within striking distance of the Ferrari? No DRS, of course, yet. Have to have one full lap of racing before the DRS is activated once again. Lance Stroll, what's happened to him? Has just fallen down the order. I think Lance Stroll has maybe made a mistake somewhere. Esteban Ocon and Alex Albon having a battle behind George Russell. Ocon trying to keep his position in front of Albon. Albon going for it, though. Lance Stroll also joins the trio. All three of them going through turn 13 and 14 side by side. Ocon, though, closes the door on Albon. Albon trying not to let Lance Stroll get around the outside, though. Stroll goes off the track and gains a position. I think Lance Stroll will have to give that position back, though. He's gained the position whilst off of the racetrack. Back to the lead runners then. Fastest lap of the race now goes to Charles Leclerc. He's put Max Verstappen outside of DRS range. So a perfect first lap after the restart for Charles Leclerc. And that also helps out his teammate Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz back within DRS range of Verstappen. The Ferrari cars looking very quick indeed. They looked good yesterday. And Alex Albon trying to go up the inside of Lance Stroll. Not able to do it this time around. Albon, the only driver who decided to pit under the safety car, so doesn't want to burn those tyres out too much. Wants to gain that pit advantage if possible. Here we are then. Carlos Sainz within DRS range of Verstappen. Coming around turn 11. Let's watch Carlos Sainz and see if he makes a move this time around, or if he's going to use the DRS to just gain and put himself in a position to overtake next time. Carlos Sainz closing that gap to Verstappen. The letterbox open on the rear wing of the Ferrari car, but doesn't go for it this time around. Yeah, Gasly also putting Piastri under pressure. Here comes Nico Hülkenberg on Fernando Alonso, and Hülkenberg's going to go up the inside of the Aston Martin car and gets the move done. That's Hülkenberg up into the point-scoring places, and Haas once again running in the double point-scoring positions. Magnussen 7th. Hülkenberg 10th. What a difference some Toyota stickers can make. Goodness gracious of me. What a move from Hülkenberg. And the Haas's in the point-scoring places. As I said, here comes Carlos Sainz. Then DRS on the main straight. Up the hill towards turn 1. Don't imagine he's going to go for the move now, but we'll use that DRS to just close the gap to Verstappen. Carlos Sainz and Verstappen come around turn 1 within 0.6 of a second of one another. Verstappen, though, through the S's, trying to escape the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, if possible. Still very early on in this Grand Prix, only 8 laps in, 49 laps left to play out. Haas dominance, Maybor fans. Looking like the kings of the midfield right now. RB, though, do have Yuki Tsunoda in the point-scoring places as well. Both of them on 34 points before the Grand Prix started. Now, Magnussen and Hülkenberg giving Haas the advantage, but Tsunoda limiting the damages. Here comes Sainz then behind Verstappen. He's fallen quite a way away as Carlos Sainz. Verstappen has just stepped on the pedal a little bit. Carlos Sainz now 2 seconds adrift of the Dutchman. Lando Norris biding his time in fourth spot. Piastri has managed to escape Pierre Gasly and put himself outside of DRS range. Kevin Magnussen then, the first man with DRS down that back straight in 7 spots. Tsunoda with DRS 2 though. Sergio Perez though causing Yuki Tsunoda some headaches. And Tsunoda looking behind rather than forwards. Here's Liam Lawson and Lance Stroll. What happened between the two of them? Lawson in a muddle with the other Aston Martin yesterday. And Liam Lawson with a really good move past Lance Stroll. Nothing doing there. I thought that might have been where Lance Stroll made a mistake. But no, it was a little bit later on. Yeah, just Stroll going into the dirt. And that's what cost Lance Stroll a good few positions, dropping him all the way back to 18th spot. Leaving the track and gaining an advantage. I did think Lance Stroll gained a position from Alex Albon a little bit illegally, to be honest with you. Here we go then. Charles Leclerc, 2.5 seconds ahead of Verstappen. Still holds the fastest lap. And Carlos Sainz now complaining that he has no power on the exit of the corners. Carlos Sainz might have a problem. Carlos Sainz smelling fuel as well inside of the Ferrari car. So is there a problem with Carlos Sainz's Ferrari? I really hope not, considering how entertaining Carlos Sainz made the sprint yesterday. A stunning second place drive from Carlos Sainz in the sprint. He's running in the podium places right now, but it might be a mechanical failure for Carlos Sainz by the sounds of it. Running out of power on the exit of the corners and can also smell something not so good inside of his Ferrari. We're on board with him at turn. And Carlos Sainz again on the radio. Smells a lot like fuel inside of the car. Is there a fuel leak? If there is, I mean, that's game over because you can't run the car with a fuel leak because you'll run out of fuel too early and you'll be disqualified from the race anyway. We've seen it before where cars have had too little fuel in them at the end of a Grand Prix and are disqualified for it. So if there is a fuel leak in Carlos Sainz's car, there's not too much, but oh! And Zhou Guanyu goes for a spin at turn 1. And down into 19th goes the Chinese driver. Just lost it at the top of the hill, and the Stakes Sauber car back into 19th. George Russell up into 15th. Let's have a little look at the onboard of Zhou Guanyu. I think he just got it all out of shape. Yeah, just the rear end of the car steps out. Nothing that Zhou Guanyu could do there, unfortunately. As soon as it had gone, and just had to wait for the other cars to move past. Keeping an eye on Carlos Sainz's pace. He is matching Max Verstappen at the moment. Still 1.5 seconds adrift though. And clearly still not very happy at all inside of the car. Sainz. Driver default Delta 16 on. Not sure what that means. But Carlos Sainz fiddling around with his Ferrari car to try and save his race if possible. Really doesn't want to have to retire from third place, especially because it was looking like he had a battle with Max Verstappen coming until this issue arose. 11 laps into the Austin Grand Prix then. Going into it, Charles Leclerc still leads comfortably from Verstappen. 3.5 seconds the gap as we head towards where people might start thinking about their first pit stop. Likely to be a 2-stop race, even with the early safety car, meaning that the cars will maybe run a little bit further on this first stint. They would have been able to hold on to their tyres for those 3 laps that we had behind the safety car. And Carlos Sainz seemingly being able to sort out and find a solution inside of the car with the team. So possibly the way that the fuel was injected into the engine, or one of the settings not quite what Ferrari wanted and causing Carlos Sainz a bit of a headache. But Carlos Sainz now seemingly doing a little bit better. Can he close the gap to Max Verstappen once again? He's 1.3 seconds adrift. Liam Lawson also making moves now up into 11th spot in his RB car. Could it be a point scoring position for Liam Lawson in his first Grand Prix, returning onto the grid? Got Hulkenberg 2.5 seconds ahead of him. Magnussen, Tsunoda, Perez also in the point scoring places. Pierre Gasly doing a stunning job in 6th spot. Gasly still running around there in his Alpine. Seems to have found a lot of pace in that Alpine car. All of a sudden this weekend. Came to life in qualifying. Has been able to turn that into race pace also. He's only 3 seconds adrift of Piastri. But a second and a half quicker. A second and a half ahead of Kevin Magnussen. Liam Lawson, a little replay of his overtake of Fernando Alonso. Just got the slipstream. Moved to the inside. Fernando tried to come back at him, but actually dipped a tyre into the dirt, did Fernando Alonso. And Liam Lawson closes the door to Fernando through turn 15. And Liam Lawson doing an exceptional job, starting from 19th place, remember, all the way up to 11th already in this one. Here we go then. Lawson, Alonso, Colapinto also running in 13th, by the way. Castro on the radio. Feedback on plan A. Piastri says it's ambitious. So, plan A, maybe the one-stop strategy. I was expecting the majority of drivers to go on to a two-stop, even starting on the hard compound tyre, still go for a two-stop strategy. Alex Albon, the only driver to have pitted so far. He pit under the safety car conditions. So will gain on the rest of the pack around him as long as he can keep his tyres in working condition. Only 4 laps younger than everybody else around him at the moment, though. Charles Leclerc still leading this one, just coming around towards turn 10. Verstappen, 5 seconds adrift of the Ferrari. Leclerc, after taking the lead at turn 1, has absolutely flown into the distance and made this race look very, very comfortable indeed for the Ferrari man. Max Verstappen in 2nd place, 5 seconds adrift. Carlos Sainz hasn't been able to gain on the Dutchman. Now nearly 2 seconds off the back of the championship leader. Still in the podium places. Lando Norris then 3 seconds back from that. Piastri another 3 seconds. Gasly 3.5 seconds. Magnussen a second and a half. Just feels like everybody is just deciding to give themselves a little bit of space so that they can see how these tyres are going to go, because you're running in the dirty air, you're really underneath the rear wing of the car in front. It does scrub your tyres that little bit quicker. And I think cars now just deciding they don't want to do that. Here goes Russell on Valtteri Bottas. Russell up the inside of Valtteri Bottas at turn 12, and he's got the move done. George Russell, though, I don't know, pushed Valtteri Bottas quite wide through there. But George Russell up into 14th place. Can the Mercedes man get up towards the point-scoring places? The only Mercedes car out on track right now, Lewis Hamilton, crashing out of the Grand Prix by beaching his Mercedes car into the gravel, which caused that first safety car on the 2nd lap of the Grand Prix. George Russell, though, moves ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas still without a seat for next season. That Stake Sauber seat available still. Not yet confirmed. Zhou Guanyu decides to come into the pits in the other Stake Sauber car. Verstappen on the radio. Finding a little bit of an issue, says the Red Bull team. So there's a problem with Max Verstappen's car that they're going to have a little look at in the pit stops. So Max Verstappen now having to limit the damages. It's putting Charles Leclerc in an incredible position where now Leclerc 6 seconds in the lead of this Grand Prix. Verstappen falling away from him. George Russell now trying to make a move on Colapinto and does make the move on Colapinto. George Russell finally deciding that now is the time to get past these back markers. He's gotten rid of Bottas and now Colapinto in back-to-back laps, although is now under investigation. The investigation coming through. George Russell and Valtteri Bottas. See that orange marker there? Now under investigation. George Russell for pushing Valtteri Bottas wide. It's too late to give Bottas the position back now because he's also moved past Colapinto in all of this and has Fernando Alonso ahead of him. Charles Leclerc, fastest man out on track, fastest lap of the Grand Prix in hand as well. Carlos Sainz still 2 seconds behind Verstappen, so even though Verstappen is falling away from the leader, Carlos Sainz not able to gain on him either. Lando Norris's lap times also quite far adrift of what Max Verstappen is even able to achieve, let alone Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri still running 5th, Gasly in 6th. We're starting to see the pack elongate out here in Austin. Could do with some pit stops really to mix it around a little. See where Charles Leclerc at the moment would come out in and around where Yuki Tsunoda is out on track. Were the Ferrari to pit now. Still a few laps left to go though. Liam, thank you for super chatting, my friend. Who's getting the Red Bull seat? 25. I mean, Liam Lawson's making a very good case for himself. Started 19th, remember, Liam Lawson. And has moved all the way up into 11th. Yuki Tsunoda, though, has been the man this season. I think, you know, he is... Oh, George Russell does get that penalty. 5-second penalty for George Russell for pushing Valtteri Bottas wide of that corner. So that's a 5-second penalty for George Russell. I honestly feel like Tsunoda and Lawson are both in contention for that Red Bull seat. If it was me, problem is Red Bull just don't really like Tsunoda. So it does feel like Liam Lawson has the edge there. And Sergio Perez is not doing himself any favours here. He is currently running behind Yuki Tsunoda's RB car and not looking like he's going to pass him anytime soon, honestly. I haven't seen any manoeuvres from Sergio Perez as of yet. Perez really not helping Red Bull in the constructor standings either. Next Liam Lawson here. Maybe. Maybe that's why Liam wants Liam Lawson in. George Russell on the radio. And just being told of that 5-second penalty. And not happy about it. Wasn't very sure that he should have got that penalty, George Russell, but it is confirmed, a 5-second penalty for him. He'll have to stay stationary for 5 seconds during the pit stop process. And we're going to see the drivers probably elongate this stint a touch. I was imagining the cars coming in around about now. So I feel like it'll maybe be lap 20 that we start to see the majority of the front runners coming in. We've got Bottas and Joe have come in for the Stake Sauber team already. Liam Lawson closing in to Nico Hulkenberg. And Toto Wolff also not very happy about the 5-second penalty either. Although Russell has just got to get his head down now and try and make sure that that 5-second penalty doesn't actually cost him too much overall. He's behind Fernando Alonso. And closing in behind the Spaniard. Spaniard knows how to put George Russell off, though. Remember, in Australia, George Russell made a mistake behind Fernando Alonso, which caused George Russell to tumble out of the Grand Prix. Will he be able to get the move done past Fernando this time around? Just coming through the S's, these two. Alonso up towards turn 11. It'll be DRS wide open for George Russell. He is closing in to the rear end of that car. And also looking at Liam Lawson in the distance. Sergio Perez, though, is finally making a move on Yuki Tsunoda. Sergio Perez peels off to the inside. And Sergio Perez gets the move done. Moves up in front of Tsunoda as Russell also moves in front of Alonso. So both Sergio Perez and George Russell gaining a position on this lap. Perez up into 8th. Tsunoda down to 9th spots. Although not giving up the position lightly. Yuki Tsunoda tries to come back at Sergio Perez through turn 15 and 16. But no doing. Sergio Perez has confirmed himself up into 8th spot. We'll now be looking at Kevin Magnussen ahead in the Red Bull car. Magnussen actually decides to come into the pits anyway. So Magnussen into the pits releases Sergio Perez into 7th. Let's have a little look where Kevin Magnussen is going to come out in this. Running comfortably in the points was Kevin Magnussen. Toyota sticker across the rear wing of the Haas car. And here comes Kevin Magnussen then out of the pits in 17th place and a good few seconds to Alex Albon as well. Alex Albon, remember, has already pitted once but has done now 14 laps on those tyres. So Magnussen needs to get past the Williams fairly swiftly and then he'll be in the right position because everyone else ahead of him will have to come in at some point too. So basically, Kevin Magnussen just doesn't want to lose too much time behind Alex Albon here. Otherwise, he will be putting those point scoring places under threat. Yuki Tsunoda now defending from Nico Hülkenberg. Tsunoda peels off to the inside. Hülkenberg decides to try and undercut to the outside. Hülkenberg up the inside of Yuki Tsunoda. No, not able to do it this time around. These two drivers, arguably the two best of the rest drivers from the midfield this season, going wheel to wheel. Hülkenberg tries to go around the outside of Tsunoda through 15. No doing and has to concede. Hülkenberg stays in 9th spot behind Yuki Tsunoda and they both come around 16 towards 17. And Tsunoda is having his work cut out for him and decides to peel off into the pits anyway. Tsunoda deciding to come into the pits rather than continue this battle with Nico Hülkenberg. So here comes Yuki Tsunoda. Keep an eye on Tsunoda versus Magnussen. Tsunoda will try and gain the position. Gasly has also come into the pits as well. Gasly and Tsunoda falling down the order as they pit. Kevin Magnussen, though, with the jump on them. And Magnussen up to 15th place. Gasly and Tsunoda come out behind the Haas. The undercut has worked. Magnussen has gained that position on Pierre Gasly and by a considerable margin as well. A very swift undercut from Kevin Magnussen. Put him in a super position moving forwards. Wow. Kevin Magnussen, a stunning lap there. And Kevin has jumped back up into 15th spot. But remember, everybody ahead of him is going to have to pit at some point soon, apart from Alex Albon, who pit under the safety car. Although Alex Albon will have to pit anyway. His tyre's not that much fresher than the rest. And the tyres seemingly falling away from these drivers because they are really struggling. As you can see, with Magnussen able to do such a big undercut on Gasly and Tsunoda, the lap times are a mile apart. Some mechanics starting to look at it. Lap 20 of the Grand Prix was when I was expecting the front runners to be thinking about pitting. Let's see what Charles Leclerc is thinking. Leclerc won't want to be troubled by the rest. He is 8 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, so just needs a clean pit stop, however it looks. But Verstappen, Sainz, Norris, they're all within touching distance of one another. And looking at how Kevin Magnussen did during that pit stop, maybe they want to try and get the undercut of their own. Let's see. Lando Norris continuing on in 4th place, having started from pole position. Why has the shed somehow gone to this stream? I am not sure. Have I ever been to Arav's shed yet? I haven't. I'd love to go. I haven't actually worked with Arav before. He's on the... He's kind of... I feel like he's a little bit too highbrow for me. He's kind of that level above me in terms of Formula One YouTuber, isn't he? You know, he works with the quadrants of this world. He's that step above. I feel like if I reached out to him, he'd be like, who is this man? Who is this man? Why are you talking to me? They aren't even showing McLaren. The problem is the McLaren car's kind of in a bit of a no man's land at the minute. Lando Norris 3.5 seconds adrift of Sainz, another 4 seconds back to Piastri. So Piastri on the radio, actually. Tyres still feeling quite good. The graining has cleared a little bit, so maybe they will go for it. Lando Norris and Piastri will maybe go for a little bit of a further maneuver. Carlos Sainz, though, supposedly within undercut territory of Max Verstappen. So who will blink first? Will it be Carlos Sainz? Let's have a little look. 22 seconds. Carlos Sainz would come out in and around Nico Hulkenberg, to be fair, if he were to pit now. What happened to Hamilton? Hamilton spun on lap 2 and is out of the Grand Prix. Beached his Mercedes car in the gravel. Charles Leclerc absolutely dominating at this moment in time. Has disappeared into the distance as Charles Leclerc. Nearly 9 seconds ahead of Verstappen. Verstappen supposedly nursing some kind of problem. Same with Carlos Sainz, actually. Carlos Sainz also having some sort of issue early on. Spam Arav with NAF1. I mean, you can if you want. Again, I don't know if he'd know who I even was, to be honest. Carlos Sainz then does decide to pit. Is the undercut on for the Ferrari? Hard compound tyres going onto Carlos Sainz's car. It's a solid 2.6 second stop for Ferrari. Right, let's see what kind of pace Carlos Sainz has there. Needs to get the pedal down. And how good is this Ferrari going to be able to be? Carlos Sainz actually came out a little bit ahead of where I thought he would. I thought he'd come out around about Nico Hulkenberg. Actually came out ahead of Sergio Perez. So Carlos Sainz with a lovely bit of room in front of him, actually. A 13-second gap to Oscar Piastri that he can just use that lovely bit of clean air to go for. Sergio Perez will be trying to put Carlos Sainz under pressure, but with those really heavily used medium tyres, I don't think it's going to be able to do Max Verstappen, his teammate, any favours here. Kevin Magnussen has finally got past Alex Albon as well. Alex Albon pushing Magnussen super wide, actually, as he goes for the overtake the first time around. Then Magnussen gets the overtake done a little bit later in the lap. Magnussen up to 14th spot and is first of those drivers towards the back end of the grid that have pitted. Carlos Sainz, the only driver towards the top end of the grid that's pitted so far. Albon under investigation for forcing off the grid. Colapinto going for a move on Alonso. And Colapinto, I think, is going to get the move done. Alonso's going to try and come back at him. Colapinto, though, into turn 12, 13, 14. Got it. Colapinto up into the point scoring places for now. Colapinto up to 10th. Of course, Kevin Magnussen has pitted. So has Gasly and Tsunoda. But at the moment, as it stands, Colapinto running in 10th spot. Carlos Sainz. See what the lap times are like for the Ferrari. Lando Norris looking to extend. Lando, though, struggling with the tyres. And Fernando Alonso has a little look at Colapinto, but not able to get back. The Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso not been anywhere near the race pace that I thought he might have. And Colapinto, Looks a lot like Ayrton Senna, do you think? We just maybe. Prediction after pit stop. At the moment, supposedly, Carlos Sainz would be 3/10 adrift of Verstappen. And Charles Leclerc also not wanting to be left out for too long. To be fair, probably get Charles Leclerc in fairly soon, to be honest. I know that he's wanting to extend his stint. He is 10 seconds in the lead of Verstappen, but also doesn't want to be left out too long just in case. Kevin Magnussen now making his way back through the back. Just talked about him getting past Alex Albon through turn 14, 15, and he's just done the same to Lance Stroll. Just managed to get past Lance Stroll into turn 15 and away from him. Now catching the back of Esteban Ocon, and the Haas having a lovely time out there. Kevin Magnussen on those fresh tyres, just slicing through the other midfield cars like a hot Haas through butter. Lando Norris still in third place, keeping an eye on his lap times, but Carlos Sainz has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix in his Ferrari car. Is Max Verstappen deciding to stay out that little bit longer? Because Carlos Sainz is closing in on those front-running cars. In fact, Verstappen a lot slower than the rest of those front-running cars last lap. A 40.4 for Verstappen to 39s from Leclerc, Norris, Piastri, and a 38 from Carlos Sainz. Still a long way to go in this race. 33 laps left. And Gasly and Tsunoda now also starting to gain on Albon and Stroll. But I'll be honest, Kevin Magnussen in a league of his own right now. The prediction, the undercut from Carlos Sainz seemingly has worked, because he is now well within a pit stop of Max Verstappen. Verstappen will come out behind Carlos Sainz by a good few seconds at this rate. And Charles Leclerc, how many laps can you do? Let's focus on Plan C. Plan C for Charles Leclerc in this one. I mean, I suppose he probably wasn't expecting to be leading the race by 10 seconds at this point in the Grand Prix. So fair enough that Plan A and Plan B are probably out the window. But Charles Leclerc leading comfortably in the Ferrari, and the issues for Verstappen, the problem for Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris and Piastri not seemingly having the pace we expected from the McLaren cars, just kind of left Charles Leclerc all by himself. Leclerc looking very comfortable indeed at the front of the pack. Verstappen on the radio. The left-hand side tyres are really bad now. Copy, Max, thank you. Just waiting and waiting and waiting. Bringing that kind of one-stop strategy into position. I mean, it is possible. I was not expecting this many cars to elongate and go for the one-stop strategy. I suppose the safety car has helped a little bit with that. You know, they had 3 laps behind the safety car where they could hold onto their tyres that little bit better. But Lando Norris, 3 seconds adrift of Verstappen still. And here come the Red Bull mechanics. So is it going to be Max Verstappen? It is. Box is the call from Verstappen as we see him peel into the pits. And Lando Norris goes around turn 20 and takes that position from Verstappen for now. Lando Norris up to second place. Oscar Piastri also makes his way past. Where's Carlos Sainz in all of this? Sainz is making his way down the start-finish straight. Carlos Sainz is going to scream past Max Verstappen. And the Red Bull has indeed lost out to the Ferrari. Carlos Sainz moves up a position ahead of the Dutchman and is ahead by a considerable margin as well. Don't even know if Max Verstappen would have seen Carlos Sainz disappear into the distance. He has fallen away from him. 4.5 seconds the gap between Sainz and Verstappen as the championship leader exits the pits. Is still, though, ahead of Sergio Perez, but Verstappen finally decides to go for it. I feel like Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, maybe even Charles Leclerc, are going for the one-stop strategy 26 laps done, 31 to go. Charles Leclerc, box. So they're going to cover off Verstappen maybe and decide now is the time. We've got the position where Carlos Sainz is ahead of Verstappen, so we've got more than enough margin to be able to get Charles Leclerc in, and with a clean pit stop, should easily be leading this race still once the two McLaren cars pit also. So Lando Norris and Piastri going for something slightly different to the rest. Piastri and Norris yet to have pitted at the front of the pack. Sergio Perez yet to have pitted in 6th place. Nico Hülkenberg, George Russell running in 7th and 8th have not yet pitted either. Lawson, Colapinto, Alonso. Kevin Magnussen, the first man to have pitted in that kind of back of the pack group, is in 12th place. Ocon then behind, Stroll behind, Albon behind. Maybe all going for a one-stop strategy as well. Gasly, though, has just caught up to the back of Alex Albon, but Alex Albon is trying to make a move on Lance Stroll, and Alex Albon up in front of Lance Stroll. George Russell and Sergio Perez having a little tete-a-tete as Sergio Perez then peels into the pit lane. George Russell jumps in front of him. Liam Lawson also moves ahead of Perez as they go through the pits. But Albon having a little battle with Lance Stroll and Pierre Gasly on the fresh tyres, thinking, I don't really need this, you two. If you could just move out of the way of me, I'm on a very different strategy to the both of you. But Gasly's going to have to wait and see as Lance Stroll tries to go around the outside of Albon. Gasly trying to use the additional traction that he'll have on the fresh tyres to try and get past both, but can't this time around. Lance Stroll gets back in front of Alex Albon in the Williams. And this battle is going to continue on through the S as they go. Lance Stroll leading Alex Albon. Pierre Gasly behind. Yuki Tsunoda also catching the back of these three. So it does feel like everyone is deciding to go that little bit longer than those guys that have already pitted. Alex Albon has pitted as well, but pitted under the safety car. Fernando Alonso coming into the pits. And down into 18th spot is Fernando Alonso now. Between Bottas and Joe. Not where he would have expected to be, considering he started right up in the point scoring places in 7th. It's a real switch around for all of the midfield teams, to be honest. Here we go then. Gasly tries to go around the outside of Albon. Leaves the track, but gains the position. That'll be an interesting one for the stewards to have a little look at. I think Albon kind of pushed Gasly wide, though. So Gasly up in that position. Hülkenberg decides to pit. Hülkenberg is in. Magnussen then moves back ahead of his teammate. Where's Hülkenberg going to come out in all of this? 29 laps left to go. It's a one-stop strategy, clearly, for Nico Hülkenberg. Goes on to the harder compound tyre. Lance Stroll into the pits also. Hülkenberg has come out in 12th spot behind Esteban Ocon. Ocon yet to have pitted, though. Sergio Perez only pitted a lap ago also. Colapinto and Liam Lawson then. The two drivers yet to have pitted in that group. George Russell, also in that trio. So 6th, 7th, 8th place all need to pit for us to be able to see where we are at. And the problem that Kevin Magnussen might have here is because he pitted early, he is going to have to pit again, is Kevin Magnussen. That means he's going to have a little bit of an ordeal. He's probably going to have to overtake all of these cars again out on track. Sergio Perez making a move around Kevin Magnussen, and Sergio Perez gets the move done. Magnussen down into 10th. Sergio Perez finally above Kevin Magnussen, having pitted just one lap ago. Gasly under investigation, leaving the track and gaining an advantage. I did think that went off the track there to get the position done. Carlos Sainz on the radio. More phase 1 brake release for turn 1. And Carlos Sainz doesn't know what that means. Neither do I, Carlos, to be fair. Neither do I. Lando Norris and Piastri continuing on. So it's Norris and Piastri, Russell, Lawson, Colapinto, Esteban Ocon, the drivers yet to have pitted in this Grand Prix as we tick over the halfway mark. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, hit it for me, please. We're on our way to 110,000 subscribers. We're trying to get there before the end of the season. And of course, hit the like button if you're enjoying the stream as well. We try and aim for like 300-400 likes on these streams. I don't know how many there are because I haven't checked in. Been enthralled by the track. Black and white flag for Pierre Gasly for track limits. So he does need to be a little bit careful. Does Pierre Gasly? Let's have a little look at the track limits of the drivers. So Stroll, Gasly, both, yeah, having 3, 4. Does make sense. And a little bit cheeky with their track limits infringements. Lando Norris, though, trying to go a little bit longer. Lando Norris, 139.5, but Charles Leclerc, 139 dead. So's Verstappen as well. Every lap is tyre delta. That is correct, as Lando Norris's engineer tells him, but it does also mean that the tyre delta you're losing now. You know, he lost half a second last lap. Max Verstappen, let's keep an eye on that. So Verstappen, 17 seconds adrift of Lando Norris at the moment. Keep an eye on that as the next few laps unfold. Charles Leclerc is already on the back of Oscar Piastri. There's Carlos Sainz, who is now 4 seconds ahead of Verstappen. Carlos Sainz might have to stop twice. 8 laps done on those tyres. I imagine was probably going for the 2-stop strategy, but probably won't want to go for it now. Will Carlos Sainz? He got that position done on Max Verstappen. Let's see then. George Russell in 6th spot, yet to have pitted in that midfieldy pack. Sergio Perez will then inherit those positions. So Perez actually looking to be running in 6th spot at the moment, which is pretty good for Sergio Perez. Kind of got back up to where he should be. And Charles Leclerc is now right underneath Oscar Piastri's rear wing. 39.7 from Lando Norris that lap. A 38.7 from Verstappen. So again, a second gained from Verstappen there. So he's now 16 seconds adrift of Lando Norris. And every second he loses, he does need to gain back later in the Grand Prix if Lando Norris is going to go for this move on Verstappen like his race engineer thinks that they are able to. Let's have a little look. No upgrades equals easy win. Oscar Piastri, realizing he's not actually fighting Charles Leclerc today, doesn't really put up too much of a fight, considering they are battling for 3rd place in the driver's standings, but Piastri realizing that this isn't his battle to fight. And Piastri doesn't put up much of a fight at all. Charles Leclerc moves back up into 2nd spot in this Grand Prix. Lando Norris 3.5 seconds ahead. Here come McLaren then. And box for Lando Norris. Norris comes in and trying to go longer on this first stint. 31 laps completed. 25 laps left to go then. And the hard compound tyres go on to the McLaren car. A decent stop, 2.2 seconds from the McLaren team. There goes Max Verstappen then. So let's see how far adrift will Lando Norris be of Verstappen on 6-lap pressure tyres. So 6-lap pressure tyres needs to pay out by the end of the Grand Prix in Lando Norris's favour if he's going to get himself ahead of Max Verstappen. Remember, Verstappen did make 2 points up in the sprint race yesterday. So finishing 1st to Lando Norris's 3rd in the sprint. And that Verstappen gained 2 points on his championship rival. And I'll be honest, if Verstappen gains more points in the Austin Grand Prix, it does feel like it's pretty much done and dusted, especially if Ferrari are on the pace that they are this weekend for the rest of the season. Esteban Ocon into the pits, 2.5 second stop. And Ocon finally switches tyres, going for the one-stop strategy. This is where, you likes of Magnussen, Gasly, Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas as well. They'll have to stop again, you'd imagine, before the end of the Grand Prix. And Piastri is going to box the lap after Lando. So box for Oscar Piastri. And it is just Russell, Lawson and Colapinto then that are still running around. They did all start on the hard compound tyre. You can see those. So they will also be jumping onto the medium compound tyre. See what Russell, Lawson and Colapinto can do on that. Russell not doing too bad at lap times either. 139.6 from George Russell. 139.6 from Sergio Perez also. 140.4 from Kevin Magnussen. So George Russell continuing to put in the lap times. Liam Lawson at 140.6. Comparable to those other drivers around him. Nico Hulkenberg is kind of putting in those lap times in the middle of the pack. You can see it highlighted in green now. 139.4 for Nico Hulkenberg in 11th. Pierre Gasly does pick up a penalty. So there's a 5-second penalty for Pierre Gasly. So that is Gasly and Russell with penalties then. And Gasly and George Russell both with 5-second penalties. Alex Albon has been investigated for 9 different things. Oh, sorry, it's been in the investigations log 9 times this race. It has been productive from Alex Albon, to say the least. Goodness me. But yeah, Gasly, 2 and a bit seconds ahead of Tsunoda. So would only lose 1 position, Gasly, with that 5-second penalty. Because Albon is 6 seconds adrift of the Alpine. Norris on the radio. So Lando Norris being told on the radio, you've got the tyre advantage now. 6-lap tyre advantage to Verstappen. A 10-lap tyre advantage to Carlos Sainz. What can he do with it? Here we go then. Lando Norris needs to gain half a second a lap or so if he's going to reach Carlos Sainz. So let's see what kind of lap times they can put in. It was Max Verstappen with a 138.8. Norris with a 138.6. So he's a little bit more, does Lando Norris, but the lap time will come to him a little bit later as well. So it might go right down to the wire, this battle with Lando and Verstappen. Fastest lap of the race, though, for Lando Norris in that. Not saying it's a slow time from Lando Norris. I'm just saying he does need a little bit more. 6 seconds adrift of Verstappen. 0.2 a lap is not quite going to do it. Alex Albon, I think, comes into the pits. Does indeed. So Alex Albon pitting for the second time. Pitted under the safety car. Kind of went for that gamble. Pits once again, does Alex Albon. And is going to be towards the back end of the pack. But on a fresh set of tyres. So let's see what he can do there. Esteban Ocon is putting in some pretty decent times on his fresh tyres. Trying to gain on Fernando Alonso. Although he is 10 seconds adrift of Fernando Alonso. So Ocon not got much to fight for there. And Charles Leclerc just takes the fastest lap off Lando Norris. A 138.633 from Charles Leclerc. Ferrari looking very, very quick indeed. Lando Norris, though, a 138 dead. There we go. That's what we wanted from Lando Norris. He's gained a second on Max Verstappen in that last lap. A 139 dead for Verstappen. A 138 dead for Lando Norris. Here we are then. Is the battle on? A second quicker. 6 tenths quicker than Charles Leclerc in the lead of the Grand Prix. The tyres will be screaming underneath that McLaren car. Is Leclerc going to win? Yes. Yes, he is. Safety car right now. Safety car right now would play into Lando Norris's hands beautifully. Because it would give him 20 laps of the Grand Prix left. He'd have the tyre advantage on the 3 cars ahead of him. Safety car would be perfect. And I feel like that was kind of what McLaren were holding out for. We can't really hold out for safety cars anymore in Formula 1. They are very, very rare in these last few Grand Prix. Apart from today, when Lewis Hamilton made a mistake on lap 2, we haven't seen the safety car in a good chunk of time. And Yuki Tsunoda with a penalty. Tsunoda with a 5-second penalty as well. So Gasly, even though he'll gain 5 seconds, so will Yuki Tsunoda. So both Gasly and Tsunoda losing 5 seconds. So at the moment, that won't affect either of them because they both get it. Lando Norris, another fast lap, a 37.9 from Lando Norris. Here he comes. Max Verstappen, a 39.0. Is Verstappen holding onto his tyres a little bit? Or is this the pace of Max Verstappen's car? Carlos Sainz with a 138.6. 138.8 from Charles Leclerc, but Leclerc still leading by 7.5 seconds. George Russell, Liam Lawson, and Colapinto still yet to have pitted, by the way. 35 laps, the 3 of those have done. And continuing on once more. Oh, here goes Fernando Alonso on Valtteri Bottas. A little replay of his overtake. And Alonso moves up into 14th spot. But because Alonso is 7 seconds adrift of Tsunoda, even with that 5-second penalty, Tsunoda would still finish in front of Fernando. 350 likes. We're on our way. Come on. Let's see if we can get 350. Maybe even 400. There's 1,600 people in the chat. Hit that like button. Let's see if we can get up to 400 likes on the stream. 20 laps left to go. Lando Norris flying. And he's 4 seconds adrift of a battle with Verstappen. Verstappen on the radio struggling. These tyres aren't very good, says Max Verstappen. Positives are coming McLaren's way. Here comes Lando Norris then. Piastri also 6.9 seconds adrift. Can Piastri catch up to Max Verstappen? Not quite the second taken out of him this time around from Lando Norris. A 138.7 for Verstappen, a 138.3. 4/10 of a second though is enough to keep on traveling towards Max Verstappen's rear wing. What are Russell and Lawson doing with those tyres? Going insanely long. Here comes the RB team. Is Liam Lawson in? Liam Lawson is in. Lawson is the first man to blink in that little battle. Liam Lawson swapping onto the medium compound tyre is going to go on to the end of the Grand Prix with those mediums. 20 laps to go. The one-stop strategy seeming like the choice. I think that safety car kind of played into everybody deciding that that was going to be the choice. Yuki Tsunoda getting out of the way of Liam Lawson. So Lawson ahead of Tsunoda. And Lawson, with the better strategy, is looking like a point-scoring place is on the cards. He's now a second adrift of Gasly. Remember, Gasly does have a 5-second penalty. He's then got 10 seconds to make up to Nico Hülkenberg in 20 laps. So it's not impossible. It's going to be tough. Hülkenberg, having done 9 laps on those hard compound tyres, though, the delta is going to be with Liam Lawson on the mediums. Sergio Perez catching up to the back of Colapinto. And Sergio Perez trying his best to get past Colapinto. Colapinto not making it easy, though. But Sergio Perez does manage to do it around turn 13 through 14. And Sergio Perez is up into 7th place ahead of Colapinto. And will be ahead of George Russell as well once Russell decides to pit. But is 17 seconds adrift of Russell. So Russell, I feel like Russell needs to pit fairly soon. And then Russell will have a little battle with Perez maybe towards the end of this Grand Prix. Tsunoda on the radio. How has this happened? Well, Tsunoda, unfortunately, you've been scrapping with quite a few drivers throughout the Grand Prix, whereas Liam Lawson's just gone one very long, very clean stint. It's been for Liam Lawson, and that's played into his hands massively. Tsunoda not very happy, though. And Tsunoda being told about that 5-second penalty as well, as Liam Lawson, his new teammate, comes out of the pits in front of him. That is not good news for not good news, sorry, for Yuki Tsunoda on both fronts, unfortunately. The Japanese driver drops down into 13th, and I feel like we're on for some Yuki Tsunoda swearing sometime very soon. Max Verstappen then continuing on, catching back up with Lando Norris. 2.7 seconds now the gap with 18 laps to go in this one. A 38.6 from Verstappen. Let's see Lando Norris across the line, a 138 dead. So another 0.6 chunked out of Max Verstappen's lap time. Carlos Sainz, though, has managed to turn on the gas a little bit. Verstappen now 6 seconds adrift of Carlos Sainz. So it's looking like the Ferraris, a comfortable 1-2 on the cards. But Lando Norris is doing absolutely everything he can to get ahead of Max Verstappen in this. Would only be a 3-point gain if Lando Norris were able to jump in front of Verstappen. Obviously, those 2 points lost yesterday does have the fastest lap point. So over the course of the weekend, Verstappen would lose out just 2 points to Lando Norris if Norris were to finish third and Verstappen fourth. Oh, and Kevin Magnussen box. What's wrong with Kevin Magnussen's car? Oh, is it just maybe something stuck? There was a very panicked radio message for Kevin Magnussen. It was a box. I mean, they probably would have had to stop a second time anyway on those tyres, but it felt like a very panicked pit for Kevin Magnussen. Medium tyres onto the Haas car then. 5 seconds adrift of Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda with a 5-second penalty. So Magnussen will gain those positions on Tsunoda and Gasly because of those penalties, you'd imagine. But Liam Lawson now running in the points. Colapinto yet to have pitted for Williams. Colapinto needs to come in sometime soon. He's now falling adrift because he's doing 140s. And everyone underneath him, 139s, Liam Lawson, 138. 139s from Tsunoda and Magnussen. So Colapinto needs to pit sooner rather than later, unless they're really just leaving him out there in hope of a safety car. Norris, though, only 0.3 of a second out of Verstappen on that last lap. Still edging towards him. As I said, at the moment, it would only be a 2-point swing in favour of Lando Norris. No, sorry, a 1-point swing. Charles Leclerc has taken the fastest lap point. Here comes Colapinto then. It is the pit stop for the Williams car. As I said, he was starting to lose out quite dramatically to the cars behind in terms of race pace, having done 39 laps on those hard compound tyres. Here comes Colapinto. And is he going to come out ahead of Kevin Magnussen? Yes, he is. So Colapinto out in front of Kevin Magnussen. Williams have done very well there. If he can get those tyres up to temperature and keep Kevin Magnussen at bay down towards turn 12, Colapinto now has a lovely run at Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly, both those drivers with 5-second penalties, which means Colapinto would take the final point scoring place as it stands. So this really does matter, this battle between Colapinto and Magnussen for the final point scoring place. George Russell, box. Russell is going to finally come in. He's 16 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez. Going to have a 13-lap tyre delta on the Mexican as well. So keep your eyes peeled for a Russell-Perez battle for 6th place in a few laps' time. Kevin Magnussen trying to go around the outside of Colapinto. This 4/10th place effectively, and isn't quite able to do it. Magnussen's going to try and come back at Colapinto. These two fighting for it, though. Russell with his 5-second penalty. Oh, I forgot about Russell's 5-second penalty. So actually, he's going to come out quite far adrift of Sergio Perez, isn't he? About 10 seconds behind Sergio Perez. It's Going to be tough for Russell. Magnussen tried his best through turn 14, 15. Tried the really tight, kind of close to the line. But not quite there. Magnussen does need to get this move done, though, on Colapinto sooner rather than later. Colapinto with slightly fresher tyres by a lap. But they've timed it to perfection. Magnussen with the DRS is going to have a little look at Colapinto. Decides to not go up the inside, but around the outside. Oh, and there's an RB. And it's Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda's gone for a spin at turn 1. And that caused a yellow flag there at turn 1. So Magnussen couldn't go for the move on Colapinto. But now, looking very good. Yuki Tsunoda, with that 5-second penalty, would have dropped behind them anyway. Magnussen, Colapinto continue fighting. Carlos Sainz sets the fastest lap of the race so far. Lando Norris moving towards 1.5 seconds of Verstappen. And we can have some battles, ladies and gentlemen, for the final 15 laps of this Austin Grand Prix. It is heating up in the Texas sunshine. Here we go then. Kevin Magnussen down towards turn 12. Is he going to be close enough to Colapinto to have a go? No DRS for Kevin Magnussen this time around. What happened to Tsunoda? Just completely goes too deep. Very similar to Zhou Guanyu's spin there a little bit earlier on. Just spun all by himself. Yuki Tsunoda just did not have the brakes going in towards turn 1. Kevin Magnussen makes evasive maneuvers. Colapinto having to also be a little bit wary of the spinning RB in front of him. Kevin Magnussen gets right up underneath the Williams car through the S's, but then has to back off. It's not really an overtaking opportunity. Kevin Magnussen 1 second adrift of Colapinto now, and outside of DRS range, but the battle not done yet. Those two battling for the final point scoring place. Gasly is going to have a 5-second penalty. To be fair, they need to make sure that they don't fall too far behind Pierre Gasly. It is only a 5-second penalty for the Alpine car. Liam Lawson, though, running lovely in the points all by himself. And Liam Lawson and Nico Hülkenberg are guaranteed point scorers, it feels like, with 1 point available to either Colapinto or Magnussen, depending on which driver can get the move done. Carlos Sainz goes fastest again, a 137.7 from Carlos, 137.9 from Lando Norris, and Verstappen 138.1. So Norris is closing the gaps, 1.3 seconds now. Isn't quite closing it as quickly as he was a few laps ago. Max Verstappen maybe just turning up the heat a little bit inside of his Red Bull car. Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, Max Verstappen are top 3 at the moment. Lando Norris fighting for the final podium place. Oscar Piastri then 8.7 seconds adrift. Sergio Perez in 6th. Nico Hülkenberg 7th. Nico Hülkenberg is going to be under pressure, though, from George Russell in a couple of laps' time. Russell now sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. But it does feel like Nico Hülkenberg, even if he does lose the place to Russell, will still finish in the points quite comfortably. Lawson is still 8 seconds off the back of George Russell, so 10 seconds behind Nico Hülkenberg with 14 laps to go. Then Gasly is another 5 seconds back from that, but he does have a 5-second penalty as well. Colapinto looking at the final point scoring place as it stands. So it'll be another point on the board for Williams' Colapinto, whilst Alex Albon is floundering in 18th place and has had an absolute disaster of an afternoon, really. Alex Albon has just been constantly in the books for stewards' inquiries. Have a little look at the championship battle as it stands. Max Verstappen would gain 15 points, Lando Norris 12, so would elongate his lead by another 3 points, plus the 2 points from the sprint race yesterday would make that 5. Haas would put themselves comfortably ahead of RB on 40 points with an additional 6. RB's extra 2 points from Liam Lawson as it stands would put them only 4 points behind, but 20 points ahead of Williams. Williams would inherit that point from Alpine, though. So it'd be down to 19 points, that gap between RB and Williams. Lando Norris now within a second of Max Verstappen. And this is where the Red Bull could be in trouble. Max Verstappen has been struggling on these hard compound tyres inside of the Red Bull car. The delta 6 laps to Lando Norris's favour. And Lando Norris has been putting in the lap times to remind him of that. Lando Norris, within a second of Verstappen, isn't going to go for a move this time around, but is going to use the DRS to close into the back of his championship rival. A podium place up for grabs here. George Russell now within a second of Nico Hülkenberg as well. Liam Lawson still 9th, Gasly 10th. Magnussen has fallen away from the back of Colapinto. So Colapinto looking really good for that final point scoring position. Let's keep it updated. Charles Leclerc has that first position spot still. Has looked incredibly comfortable this afternoon, Charles Leclerc. Carlos Sainz in second is 5 seconds adrift of his teammate. Is putting in the faster lap times, but is nowhere near catching up to his teammate at this point in the Grand Prix. Verstappen, though, third place, is under pressure. Lando Norris within half a second of the Dutchman as they go through the S's and around turn 3, 4, 5, and 6. Lando Norris closing in on Verstappen. Having lost the lead at the beginning of the Grand Prix and falling all the way to 4th, can Lando Norris at least make up one position back towards the top step of the podium and get himself a trophy to take home? They go towards turn 11. Lando Norris 6/10 adrift of Verstappen. Lando Norris, though, is chunking away time from Verstappen. Now he has to get the overtake done. It's one thing catching Verstappen. It's another thing getting in front of him. Lando Norris, DRS open down towards turn 12. And doesn't have a look at Verstappen this time around. Lando Norris, less battery to deploy. Max Verstappen has been holding on to that. Verstappen is going to make it very tricky indeed for Lando Norris to make up a position here. George Russell has just made the move on Nico Hülkenberg as well. So Russell up into 7th spot and is now lapping around about a second quicker than Sergio Perez. As I said, I was expecting George Russell to be battling with Perez. That 5-second penalty has put him a little bit further back than I remembered, but still definitely possible for George Russell. 6.3 seconds the gap to Perez. Fastest lap point in the bag as it stands at the moment as well. Luckily, though, Nico Hülkenberg not really too bothered. He is holding on to 8th place. It'll be 4 points for him. And an additional one in the sprint yesterday for Nico Hülkenberg as well. A stunning Austin Grand Prix weekend for Haas. Unfortunately, Colapinto is going to steal that final point scoring space. And Colapinto going for the move on Gasly and gets that move done on Gasly. Doesn't need to have that 5-second penalty reward him 10th spot. He's going to do it out on track. Colapinto overtakes Gasly and is up into 10th place on the road. Magnussen needs to get past Gasly now, or Magnussen is going to wave goodbye to that possibility at a point scoring place. Let's see then. Norris again looks at Verstappen. It's been another lap. They come down towards turn 12. Lando Norris just not the pace to get past the Red Bull at the moment. 10 more opportunities to come, though, for Lando Norris. He stays behind Max Verstappen. Carlos Sainz closing in. 4.6 seconds the gap now to his teammate. But not closing in quick enough, I don't think, to battle for the victory. Plus, Charles Leclerc probably holding onto his tyres a little bit longer. A little bit better, having done 20 laps on them. Lando Norris gets a little bit out of shape round turn 20. Holds on to the rear end of Verstappen. DRS open towards turn 1. Decides not to go for the move that time around. Lando Norris, though, lets Verstappen know that he's there through turn 2. Here they go then. 3, 4, 5 come in quick succession. Round turn 6 come Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Almost together. Lando Norris half a second adrift of Max Verstappen. Is this going to be the lap that the British driver goes for the overtake to get himself onto the podium here in Austin? They come up towards turn 11. Need a good drive out of turn 11, Lando, if you're going to be able to get past Max Verstappen in this one. Nico Hülkenberg Sorry, Kevin Magnussen also has caught up to the back of Gasly. But let's watch Lando Norris as he is closing in on the rear wing of Verstappen. Verstappen decides to go up the inside. Lando Norris then cutting back in towards Lando. Tries to go for it. Verstappen closes the door through turn 12. What about 13 and 14? Here comes Lando Norris up the inside of 14. Maybe round the outside of 15. He'll go for it. Lando Norris tries and tries, but isn't able to get just enough of that McLaren car alongside the Red Bull. Got his front wing up alongside the side pods of the Red Bull car, but Max Verstappen driving very well through that middle part of the track and just positioning his Red Bull car outside of range every single time around. So Lando Norris is going to have to wait once again. They go up towards turn 1. Lando Norris within half a second of Verstappen, but not close enough up the hill. Even with the DRS wide open for Norris. Franco with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. Colapinto wanting another point to his name. Kevin Magnussen has managed to move past Pierre Gasly, but it's cost Magnussen quite a lot of time behind the Alpine. 4 seconds adrift of Colapinto. So Colapinto looking like he is guaranteed that 10th place position, and also looking like he's going to get a bonus point for the fastest lap of the race with 9 laps left to go. Absolutely stunning stuff from Franco in the Williams car. Charles Leclerc still leads 5 seconds to his teammate Carlos Sainz, a Ferrari 1-2. Verstappen now under pressure once again from Lando Norris. They're coming down towards turn 12. Lando Norris this time around doesn't go for the maneuver. And they run out of straight in front of them, and Lando Norris looks like he's going to wait another lap or so. Just trying to almost force Max Verstappen to just get out of position, maybe put his car in the wrong place. Max Verstappen has a lot of experience of defending podium places in Formula One. He's been doing it for a very long time, and he's a 3-time world champion for a reason. Current driver of the day vote is going to Charles Leclerc. Colapinto, though, in second spot for driver of the day. Not sure it will be overturned, though. Charles Leclerc has been absolutely stunning. Here comes Lando Norris up towards turn 1. Maybe he's going to have a go at turn 1 instead to try and catch Max Verstappen out. Tries the switch back into turn 2. Doesn't get it done, though. Max Verstappen wily to it. Turn 3, 4, 5, and 6 tumble into one another as you go through those S's. Verstappen just pushing even harder. Lando Norris trying to get Verstappen to use up all of that battery that he's saved up and trying to push his car into third place. Verstappen comes around turn 11. DRS for Lando Norris once more. There's a back marker there of Valtteri Bottas that the two need to get in front of as well. So Valtteri Bottas is going to give a little bit of a tow to Max Verstappen. Bottas, though, maybe causing enough of a problem that Lando Norris is able to capitalize. Nope, not this time around. Lando Norris has to stick behind Max Verstappen for now. As I said, Valtteri Bottas ahead of them, so helping out Max Verstappen a little bit, giving him a bit of a tow down those straights to get past Valtteri. Well, Valtteri needs to kind of shuffle out of the way of these two. Probably will on this straight, I would imagine. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris then still side by side through turn 20. Looking up towards turn 1. Lando Norris again. Max Verstappen goes down the inside. Valtteri Bottas does peel away and gets out of the way of them. Lando Norris is always right under the rear wing of Verstappen going through turn 2, but is never within touching distance. Just can't quite get himself to within actual striking range up towards turn 1. We've got Charles Leclerc still leading, Carlos Sainz in second, Verstappen third, Norris fourth, Piastri down in fifth still, 7 seconds adrift from this pair that we're watching. Sergio Perez in sixth spot, 31 seconds behind Piastri. George Russell is now 2.5 seconds behind Perez and is still lapping quicker. He was 6 tenths quicker than Sergio Perez last lap. So George Russell is closing in on Sergio Perez as well. Hulkenberg running a very comfortable 8th place for Haas. Looking like a lovely points haul coming the German driver's way. Liam Lawson also picking up his first points of the Formula One season in his first Grand Prix of the Formula One season. 2 points would be going towards Liam Lawson, and 2 points would also be going to the other rookie, Franco Colapinto. He currently has the fastest lap of the race and is running in 10th spot. So 2 points up for grabs for the Williams driver. Kevin Magnussen has fallen way back. 5.5 seconds now, the gap between Colapinto and Magnussen. Colapinto stunningly quick on those medium compound tyres since they put them on. Remember, him and Magnussen were side by side coming out of the pits. Gasly has dropped all the way down to 12th. Alonso 13th. Tsunoda's down in 14th after that spin. Ocon in 15th. Stroll 16th. Alex Albon running all the way down in 17th place. Bottas and Joe at the back of the pack for Stake Sauber. Lewis Hamilton, the only retirement from this Grand Prix on lap 2 of it. Back to this battle then. Verstappen and Norris. 6 laps left to go. Lando Norris continues to be putting Verstappen under pressure. But to be honest, Verstappen is just putting himself in the right position every single time around. And he doesn't really look that much like he's very uncomfortable with it. Lando Norris is, though, that little bit closer as they come through turn 11 this time around. DRS wide open. The straight just isn't quite long enough. Is it this time around? Lando Norris decides to go to the outside. Verstappen covers the inside. Verstappen then covers it off. Can Lando Norris peel off and come up the inside of Max Verstappen through turn 13 or 14? Lando Norris goes to try and round the outside of 15 as well. Can he get there? He's going to try and pinch it. Max Verstappen, though, covers across, and Max Verstappen holds on to the position. Lando Norris getting ever closer, but just can't quite get it done. Max Verstappen holds on to 3rd place. 5 laps left to go as Charles Leclerc comes across the start-finish line, leading the Grand Prix once more. Sally is indeed correct. If you haven't hit that like button, hit the like button, please. It massively helps out the stream. And if you hit that subscribe button as well, that would be absolutely amazing too. Max Verstappen leading Lando Norris for the final podium place. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz looking like a comfortable 1-2 victory for Ferrari is on the cards. Oscar Piastri running all by himself in 5th. George Russell now 1.1 seconds adrift of Sergio Perez. So both of the Red Bull cars are going to be under pressure very, very soon. Max Verstappen already under pressure, though. Here comes Lando Norris. Round turn 11 they go once more. And it feels like the laps are tumbling away from Lando Norris at this point. He's only got 5 opportunities left. He's getting closer and closer every single time around. The DRS is open for the McLaren once again. He's close to the back of Verstappen. Verstappen peels off to the inside of to cover off Lando Norris. He dives up the inside, though, Verstappen. Verstappen pushes Lando Norris off the track. And I think it's going to have to concede the position. Lando Norris comes up the inside, and Lando Norris takes 3rd spot from Verstappen. That is going to be under investigation, I'm sure. Lando Norris leaving the track, gaining an advantage. And Verstappen straight on the radio. He overtook me off of the track. Is Lando Norris going to give the position back to Verstappen and go again? What will the McLaren team decide to do? Esteban Ocon tumbling down the grid order. What's happened to Ocon? Oh, Ocon is dropped into it. Max Verstappen tries to come back at him, though. And Verstappen with DRS. Lando Norris lunges to the inside of turn 1. Gets very close between the two of them. But Lando Norris does have the lead of these two. Lando Norris, 3rd place in his grasp. Max Verstappen drops a position. It's going to go to the FIA. I'm sure it's going to be under investigation very soon. Verstappen on the radio. He needs to give it back. Verstappen making sure that the FIA and the stewards know. But Verstappen now a second adrift. I don't think he's going to get DRS down towards turn 12. Is Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen is also off the racetrack, though. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, I'm sure, will both have their say on what has happened and possibly be looking at it. Oh, it has been noted. Norris Verstappen incident leaving the track and gaining an advantage noted by race control. So now, if Lando Norris does get a 5-second penalty, he's 1.4 seconds ahead of Verstappen. Could he get himself 5 seconds ahead of Verstappen in 3 laps? It's going to be a huge ask for Lando Norris, isn't it? He was a second quicker than Verstappen that last lap around, but it's going to be tough. Let's see if we can hit 500 likes indeed. Thank you for all the support in the chat as well. Let's try and hit 500 likes. George Russell then in 7th spot is now the next battle that we're going to probably watch on board. George Russell half a second behind Sergio Perez. They're just coming around the final couple of corners together. George Russell then with 3 laps to have a go at the back of Sergio Perez's Red Bull and try and gain a 6th place finish. Nico Hülkenberg in 8th spot, Lawson 9th, and Colapinto a comfortable 10th place now. Colapinto also still with the fastest lap point, by the way, so another 2 points would be going in Colapinto's pocket. 4 points already scored this season, 6 points in 4 races is 6 points in 4 races is a stunning return for a Williams driver, especially one who was a rookie not 4 races ago. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Gutham Ready, massively appreciate it. 500 likes here, 550 likes. Come on, let's keep it going. Let's rattle it along. The Austin Grand Prix. Can you make the US Grand Prix the most liked stream of the season? Let's have a go at it. There's more than enough people in the chat. Lando Norris on the radio. Our opinion is you're ahead at the apex. Both cars went off track. And Lando Norris saying what I said. Both cars did indeed go off the circuit. So it'll be up to the stewards and see what they want to do. See, Lando Norris. Yeah, also track limits infringements getting a little bit tasty. Esteban Ocon has just nicked the fastest lap from Colapinto. Well, that's a little bit annoying, isn't it? Didn't deserve it. Colapinto putting in that point score in place, but I suppose Alpine looking at Williams in the drivers and constructor standings. Lando Norris has exceeded his track limits, so expecting a penalty for that alone. Wow, Red Bull are really pushing for Lando Norris to get those track limits infringements penalties now too. Lando Norris, 2.6 seconds ahead of Verstappen, so he isn't going to get that 5-second gap that he needs. And maybe, just maybe, Lando Norris might end up finishing behind Max Verstappen in this one after all. Final lap of the Grand Prix for Charles Leclerc in this one. Thank you to all of the new subs that are rolling in. Massively, massively appreciated. And George Russell then, DRS wide open. Sergio Perez has to defend this for a couple more laps. Sergio Perez peels to the inside of turn 12, but I think George Russell's going to get it done before they even get to the corner, and he does. George Russell just much quicker, medium compound tyres compared to Sergio Perez, and gets himself up into 6th spot. So George Russell from the pit lane to 6th place is a very, very good drive from him. Considering the conditions, Sergio Perez would be a little bit annoyed. Lando Norris, 3rd strike for track limits. No more track limits, Lando. Told over the radio. Charles Leclerc, though, and Carlos Sainz are just completing the 2nd sector. Coming down towards turn 12 is Charles Leclerc. We haven't talked about him much because he has made it look comfortable from 4th to 1st after the first corner here in Austin. He has been stunningly quick throughout the Grand Prix. Managed to give himself a 10-second gap. Lando Norris does get a penalty. Lando Norris, a 5-second penalty for the Briton. Means that Lando Norris is going to finish this race behind Max Verstappen after all. Verstappen only 3 seconds adrift of Lando Norris. So unless Verstappen makes a mistake, they have given a 5-second penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. But here comes Charles Leclerc, and let's celebrate with the Monegasque man. Another victory in Formula One from 4th to 1st, and Leclerc takes it. Carlos Sainz makes it a Ferrari 1-2 here in Austin. A stunning, stunning result for the Ferrari team as they look to catch Red Bull in the constructor standings. Lando Norris comes across the line 3rd, but will drop to 4th with that 5-second penalty. Piastri takes the checkered flag in 5th place. George Russell then is going to be a very distant 6th place. It's only now coming around turn 15 as Piastri takes the checkered flag. Sergio Perez is going to come home in 7th place. Hülkenberg 8th. Liam Lawson in 9th place. And Franco Colapinto, the final points scoring position. Both of the rookies in the points scoring places. Liam Lawson, 2 points on the board for the season already. Franco Colapinto gets another point. So he's up to 5 points for the season so far in the Williams car. And he's only been there since the summer break. Absolutely stunning from those 2 young drivers. And then Kevin Magnussen, a distant 11th place in the end. He'll be very, very gutted not to make it back-to-back points. He got points in the sprint, but no points available to him in the race this weekend, despite a very, very good drive indeed from the Haas man. It was just the 2-stop strategy really didn't work. Kevin Magnussen, the best finisher of the 2 stoppers there. Gasly, the 1-stop strategy just went too early on it. Dropped all the way down to 12th place. Alonso 13th, Tsunoda 14th, Stroll 15th, Albon 16th, Valtteri Bottas 17th place, Esteban Ocon 18th, and the fastest lap of the race, with Zhou Guanyu down in 19th, and Lewis Hamilton, the only retiree from the Grand Prix. Let's take a little look at what that does to the championship before we disappear. It does mean Max Verstappen. Oh, no, sorry. I've got to... Valtteri Bottas. I apologize, Valtteri Bottas fans. Max Verstappen gains 15 points to Lando Norris's 12. So he gains another 3 points on his championship rival. I think that's done and dusted, isn't it? Gaining 5 points this weekend. Charles Leclerc get 25 points, gets to within 12 points of Lando Norris. So Lando Norris will be looking over his shoulder rather than forwards with that performance from Leclerc. Piastri gains 10 points to still remain in 4th spot. Carlos Sainz, 5th place. Hamilton, 0 points, which means George Russell is now only 10 points adrift of his teammate. Sergio Perez gets 6 points to put himself on 150. Alonso stays where he is on 62. Nico Hülkenberg claims 10th space by a 5-point margin over Lance Stroll now with those 4 additional points from the race. Yuki Tsunoda, no points. Albon, no points. Magnussen, no points. Gasly, 16th place, no points for him either. Colapinto jumps up a position and gets onto 5 points for the season, putting himself up into 18th spot. And Ocon drops down into 19th place in the standings. Liam Lawson gains and jumps in. 2 points for him, puts him ahead of Zhou Guanyu, Logan Sargent, and Valtteri Bottas. And then looking at the constructor standings, you can see McLaren still lead. Red Bull with 21 points, now really under pressure from Ferrari. Only a 5-point gap between Red Bull and Ferrari. Mercedes gain 8 points. Aston Martin, no points for them this weekend. Haas gain 4 points, putting them on 38. Red Bull, though, sorry, not Red Bull, RB gain a couple of points, putting them on 36. So just a 2-point gap between those teams coming away from this weekend. Williams gain the single point, meaning there's 4 points between them and Alpine now, with Kick Sauber at the back of the pack, still on 0 points. Whew. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm now going to be recording with Dan No Skill. So if you want to get your questions in for me and him post Austin Grand Prix, head over to the community tab and submit your questions for us. I'm going to get him on and be recording with him very, very soon. All that good stuff, though. Leave a like, subscribe, everything that you know you should do. And I will see you next week for the Mexican Grand Prix. Once again, we are live for qualifying and the full Grand Prix itself. I'll see you then.